Hello everyone, this is part 29 of What If Naruto Was the Child of the Moon in Percy Jackson, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
The ground behind the demigods exploded with smoke as a stack of crates almost flattened them. Currently, our heroes were running for their lives, the sound of massive wings was sounding awfully close behind them. There was a hiss as Naruto flung another kunai at their pursuer. The monster growled in the same language from before, the ancient tongue. They scrambled down the final staircase and past a guard's station. They found themselves in another block of prison cells. Left. Annabeth pointed out, remembering the tour she took some time ago. Our heroes finally burst out into a courtyard. The sun was glaring down at them, causing them to shield their eyes. After being underground for so long, the light almost blinded them. Outside, everything seemed normal. There were tourists casually walking around, taking pictures. The wind blew cold air from the bay. In the south, the city gleamed in the sun, but in the north, clouds swirled almost like a storm over the mountain. The whole sky was black compared to the sky over San Francisco. What was weird was the clouds didn't bother the tourists one bit. Who could blame them? The mist must be shielding their eyes from the supernatural storm. The demigods tingled, Naruto especially. Their bodies felt the phantom pains of everything they endured on top of that mountain. It was a grueling battle that they somehow survived. Annabeth, though, had a different thought. It can't be, she said as she stared at the funnel of clouds. The storms had been bad all year, but this. What are you doing? Briares wailed, breaking the others from their musings. She's right behind us. The group continued running as the ground shook. The wall is holding and the door is too small for her, Percy said triumphantly. We're SA. Just as Percy was about to finish his sentence, the whole wall gave way. The tourists around them screamed and scrambled to get away. Who knows what the mist let these mortals see? You gotta stop jinxing us, Naruto told his brother. Out of the dust and rubble, Campe appeared. Her wings were spread out covering the whole courtyard. She was holding two giant swords, two long bronze scimitars that glowed an eerie green aura that boiled wisps of vapor. The demigods could smell the sour odors and feel the heat even from across the whole yard. Poison, Grover yelled. Don't let them touch you or we'll die, Percy guessed. Gee, why am I not surprised? Well, yes, Grover nodded. After you slowly shrivel up to dust. Then, we better avoid the swords, Naruto said as he sat on the ground. Buy me time. I'm entering sage mode. Briares, grow to your full size. Tyson begged. He ripped a lamppost off the ground like it was a toothpick. Briares did not oblige. The hundred-handed one instead seemed to shrink even more, and his face morphed back to his terrified face. He just cowered in fear in the corner. There was no time to push him to fight. Campe was thundering towards them and fast. Tyson decided that that was enough. If his idol wasn't going to help him, then he will buy Naruto time, even if it was just on his own. I'll help, Percy yelled, drawing his weapon. No, poison will kill you. Only hurt Cyclops, Tyson yelled back as he hefted his pole like a bat. Just when the ancient monster was awfully close to them, Tyson swung the lamp post like a bat. Campe was sent flying where she crashed into the wall she burst through, stunning her for but a moment. Pools of poison oozed from her weapons and melted the ground. That was enough for Percy to heed his brother's words. Get Briares to safety, Tyson said, as he hefted his weapon like a makeshift lance. Percy, Annabeth, and Grover dragged the cowering Briares. Thanks to his terrified state and small stature, the three were able to get him away from the fighting just as Tyson charged Campe like cavalry in a jousting match. The ancient monster was nailed in the chest, but she held her ground. She slashed her weapons across the pole, disarming the Cyclops, but he was able to leap back. Campe went for another slash at the unarmed Cyclops. Tyson just smirked and leaned back partially as the shadow of a massive spear appeared overhead. Senpo, Odama Rasengan. Naruto called out his attack as he ground the move into Campe's face. The attack exploded, leaving a crater in the prison courtyard. Naruto landed next to the young Cyclops. Glad I got there in time. You were awesome. Tyson cheered. So were you, big guy. Naruto clapped the Cyclops' shoulder. He turned serious once more, hearing the shuffling from the rubble. I think we need more firepower if we hope to beat him, Naruto told his partner. Tyson nodded as he picked up another weapon. Campe stood in front of them, the dust swirling around her form to heal her injuries. The hair on her head hissed. Then, a lion suddenly popped up from the half-formed faces on her chest, briefly roaring at them before disappearing. She growled in the ancient tongue once again. Naruto seemed to pick up that she wanted to tell her something, but he just couldn't understand. Is she trying to tell me something? He asked. She said, you insolent demigod. I will kill you for that. Tyson translated. Just like earlier, he copied the jailer's raspy voice. Great, Naruto let out an exasperated sigh. I just made her angry. Shrugging off his frustration, Naruto raised his fingers to form a cross to form his favorite hand sign. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto yelled, creating 4 identical and solid clones. One stayed behind and started gathering chakra, while the other 3 joined Tyson and the original and got ready for round 2. All of them charged at each other. Somehow, Campe had gotten back her swords and brandished them as she shuffled towards her prey. Tyson and the 3 Narutos evaded the sword swings as they met in the middle. Tyson shot his arm forward, stunning the monster. One clone plowed through her serpent feet, knocking her to the ground. Then, the 2 other clones pinned her to the ground. The vipers and the predatory animals tried to snap at Naruto, but the blonde's rock-hard skin saved the clones from dispelling. After their altercation, a loud screeching noise came from the original. Tyson turned back and saw the original holding up a shuriken. It wasn't just any shuriken. It was a shuriken made of pure chakra. It had a Rasengan core and 4 blades of chakra spinning fast. Get out of here, Tyson. Naruto barked. You will get caught in the blast. Tyson heeded the shinobi's words. He ran towards the direction Percy and Annabeth had dragged Briares. As he looked back, he saw Naruto leap into the air and throw the shuriken. Campe let out a screech of her own. The attack hit true and exploded on top of her. To the naked eye, they could see a dome of air spinning. To the gods, they saw microscopic wind blades ripping the monster shreds even to the microscopic level. As the attack exploded to its climax, a huge gust of wind blew outward. When everything dissipated, Naruto approached the explosion site. Not even monster dust was left in the crater that was formed by the spiraling sphere. I didn't expect that to happen, Naruto mused to himself as he inspected the crater. Looking down, he saw 2 pens glinting in the middle. He leaped down to the crater to check out whatever drop he had gotten. The pens reminded him of his and Percy's own retractable weapons. He clicked the bottom of both pens, causing them to grow into their full length. They both turned into Campe's swords, except they were small enough to be carried by a human. They also glowed a greenish hue. Something told Naruto not to get sliced up by those swords. The results wouldn't be pretty. Cool, Naruto gasped to himself at the thought of wielding these weapons. His fascination was cut short when he remembered his friends. The thoughts of the quest and the overwhelming time pressure returned to him. Right, he said, pressing the bottom of the scimitars together to shrink them to pen form. After that, he felt for the familiar feeling of his marker. After finding it, he disappeared in a yellow flash. With the rest of the quest goers. Get yourself together. Percy barked out as he, Annabeth, and Grover basically lugged Briares towards the cell door where they exited from. A tremor worried Percy a little. That did not sound good. He and his friends immediately thought of the worst. Can't go any further, Briares huffed. He hadn't run like this in his entire life, he had just been content with being caught by Campe and getting tortured. Percy dropped the 100-handed one's arm and turned to glare at him. Feeling the other arm go slack, Annabeth and Grover did the same. Without anyone lugging him this time, he fell to his knees. What's the use? She will come back for us after she's finished with them. Will you snap out of this? Percy snapped, trying to hide the fear and worry on his own face. Tyson and Naruto are fighting so we can get away. Annabeth and Grover patted Percy on the back to calm him down. Just as Percy was about to speak again, Tyson came bounding in from where they came from. Percy, he said as he came running in. Tyson. Percy perked up as he heard his half-brother. He wrapped Tyson in a bear hug as best he could despite the big guy's size. You made it out, Grover said, but he noticed the lack of a certain blonde shinobi. Where's Naruto? Annabeth voiced the question. I left him there, Tyson answered. He finished off the monster. I'm sorry, what? Briares got to his feet completely gobsmacked at what he just heard. Campe is defeated, Tyson repeated himself. Surely, you jest, young Cyclops, Briares said, still not believing what he heard. If what you say is true, then where is your friend? Annabeth clutched her kunai in the small scabbard she kept hidden at her back. No, Naruto is fine. He can come out of anything. Young demigod, you do not know Campe as well as I, Briares shook his head. Did I miss anything? Naruto's voice came from behind the daughter of Athena. She turned around and the worry left her face. It was replaced by a look of relief and happiness. Why, you're back, she said, wrapping the blonde in a hug. Of course, I'm back, Annie. It takes more than Campe to bring me down, Naruto answered. The girl wasn't bothered by her nickname this time. I am Percy, Briares said. How? Futon, Raisin Shuriken, Naruto simply said. No way, Percy exclaimed. You got it to work. I'm just glad it didn't explode in my face when I tried it, Naruto slowly melting in Annabeth's embrace. I don't understand, Briares just stared at the brothers' banter. Oh right, Naruto remembered as he unwrapped himself from the embrace. Did I mention that I'm not from this world? If it was possible, Briares' eyes widened even more at the revelation. Seeing his reaction, Naruto shrugged. I guess I did not, but yes, I am not from here. But that still does not answer my question, Briares said. How did you defeat her? Naruto held out his hand and formed a sphere in his hand. I'm not exactly your normal demigod. I'm a shinobi, a ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village. We mold chakra into our weapons or into our jutsu to attack. I ripped her to shreds with the final form of this jutsu. It was like Briares' mind broke with that statement. It was like Briares still couldn't believe what he just heard. Come on, man, Percy waved off the statement. We have better things to worry about. How can you act like this? Briares threw off his gasket. He might be the key to defeating the Titans. Nah man, Naruto shook his head. I know I'm not the one in the prophecy. Whoever that guy is, we're in his hands. This is good and all, but does anyone know how to get out of here? Grover spoke up. He looked like he had been looking for a way out all this time. Look for the mark of Daedalus, Annabeth pointed out. The Greek letter for Delta. Everyone did their fair share of looking. Even Briares did, despite his shock and awe. There, Percy pointed out to his friends at what looked like a tiny scratch on the prison wall. He touched and the mark glowed blue, followed by the stone wall grinding open. Now that the ancient monster was defeated, they had all the time in the world to wait for the wall to open for them. Naruto offered to let Briares go first, but he hesitated. What if we get attacked in there? He whined. Then we'll just take him out, Naruto answered patiently. What if we get attacked by something as big as Campe? He whined again. Then you just grow to your normal size, Tyson said happily. If you're big again, then we can fight her. Briares looked hopeful. He tried to morph again, but just like earlier, he fell short. It's no use, he said sadly. I am still scared. But Campe is not here anymore. Percy argued. Monsters reform boy, Briares argued. And with the Titans in charge, don't even get me started with them. If it was possible, we know it is cause he's not a human, he shrunk even further. He walked forward into the now fully opened entrance to the maze. He gave one more look at the children and said, don't bother fighting them. If they managed to almost win before, then they'll be able to now. He continued on his way. Briares. Wait. Tyson called out but he didn't stop. Percy placed a hand on the Cyclops' shoulder and shook his head. Tyson had learned an important lesson that day. Never meet your heroes. The team delved deeper into the labyrinth. As soon as they set foot in the maze, the wall behind them snapped shut. Once again, they were left in the darkness. We're going back in here again, Grover muttered to himself. He still wasn't a fan of underground places despite staying here for who knows how long now. After walking for gods know how long, they found themselves in a room full of waterfalls. There was no floor, only a pit in the middle where the water drained into. When you looked down the hole, they couldn't see anything, even if you shined a light down there. It was in this room where they found Briares washing his face over a waterfall. This pit goes down to Tartarus, he said as he heard the group come in after him. I should just jump down there to save you the trouble. Maybe you should if you'll act that way, Tyson muttered to himself, but he sounded like he didn't mean it. He sounded more hurt than angry. Annabeth, hearing the Cyclops comment, shot him a look. I know you're mad at him, Tyson, but that's no way to talk to him. He told the young monster. He then turned to Briares and talked to him in a big sisterly voice. Don't be like that, Briares. You can come to camp with us. Help us set up for the coming war. I have nothing to offer, child. Briares shook his head. I have lost everything. But didn't you have brothers? Percy asked. They are no more, Briares answered, his face morphing into that of a grieving one. They have long since faded. But, Percy couldn't comprehend what he has just heard. He was taught differently. Weren't monsters immortal like the gods? Percy, Grover said weakly. Immortality has its limits. Sometimes monsters get forgotten, and they lose their will to stay immortal. If that's the case, Naruto's voice trailed off. Is Grover's quest for naught? His thoughts didn't end there. His mind traveled to that time Apollo told him about the old sun god Helios. He thought about the Egyptian gods. They were much older than the Greeks, Romans, and even the Norse gods. The last of the Egyptians perished a long time ago. If they are anything like the Greeks, it would be impossible, if not unlikely, to have people out there continuing the faith in the Egyptian pantheon. That would make sense, right? Somewhere in Egypt. Aku. A well-dressed man suddenly sneezed. He was of African American descent and he has piercing brown eyes. A younger man noticed this and looked at him with concern. Are you okay, Dad? The teen asked worriedly. He was also an African American that had short, curly brown hair. I'm fine, son, the older man answered his son with a smile. It's probably just your mother and your sister thinking about us. Okay, Dad. If you say so, the boy shrugged, chalking it up to some dust his dad inhaled. Back in the labyrinth. I must go. Briares turned to leave in between the children. We need you at camp, Tyson said half-heartedly. He had low hopes that his former idol can change his mind this time. Quote. I cannot. I am not as strong as I used to be, Briares mourned. Percy moved in front of the 100-handed one. Stop, he yelled, but the bigger guy just gave him one look and looked down again. Another demigod, Luke, plans to invade Camp Half-Blood, Percy told him. There's a labyrinth entrance right in the middle of the camp, and he plans to hit that. Right now, he's looking for Ariadne's string to navigate the maze, Naruto added. If Camp Half-Blood falls, then there truly is no hope. Not to mention the golden sarcophagus that holds the Time Lord's remains, Grover gulped. If they have his remains, then it is only a matter of time, Briares shook his head. All hope is lost. I do not have the finger gun to win this war. Maybe that's why immortals fade away, Percy said, realizing something. It's probably not the mortals believing in you. It's maybe because you lose faith in yourselves. He still stood there, his back to them, not saying a word. If the demigods could see his face, they would recognize a look of shame. He started to walk away. Before you go, let me just remind you that if the Titans win, there is no place on Earth or Tartarus where you can hide away from the Titans, Naruto said. They will find you eventually. After hearing what he had to say, he walked back into the darkness of the labyrinth and disappeared. Maybe it's better if he doesn't join the war, Tyson said as he looked at where Briares went with a tone of dismay in his voice. Don't be like that, Grover patted the big guy's shoulder. Everything will be okay eventually. Tyson sneezed. No, Goat Boy. He was my hero. Percy wanted to say something to cheer the Cyclops up, but he couldn't think of anything to say. Finally, Annabeth stood and shouldered her pack. This pit is starting to make me feel nervous. We should find another place to camp. I agree, Naruto said. We don't want a repeat of the last time. Grover was the first to start walking, remembering that incident in the underworld. I'm not doing that again. The others promptly followed. Just as before, they still had no idea where they were going. They were still clueless as to how to navigate the maze. After what seemed like hours, they finally settled in a corridor made out of huge marble blocks. It could have been part of a Greek tomb or something, they would never know. It was lined with bronze torches along the walls giving them light. It looked to be one of the older parts of the dungeon. Annabeth took it as a good sign. We must be close to Daedalus's workshop, she said. Get some rest, everybody. We'll continue in the morning. How do we know if it's morning? Grover asked. We don't even know if it's night, Naruto shrugged. Annabeth sighed in annoyance. Knock it off, you two, and just get some rest. Grover didn't need to be told twice. He immediately pulled out a heap of straw from his backpack, ate some of it, and made himself cozy. What I'd give to have a tree around here, Naruto sighed as tried to get himself comfortable on one side. You and me both, Grover remarked before drifting off into a deep sleep. I'll take the first watch, Annabeth said. No, you need some rest, Naruto countered. But I'm the leader of this quest, she argued. All the more reason for you to get some rest, so you can plan our next move, Naruto argued back. There's no winning against you, huh? Annabeth sighed. Only if it's for your sake, Naruto smiled. Now, get some rest. She unfurled the sleeping bag that was strapped to her bag. Instead of going to sleep, she dragged her sleeping bag towards Naruto, who was sitting down. What's wrong? Naruto asked as he noticed the girl walking towards him. She twiddled her fingers together. Can I sleep here next to you? Sure. Just don't snore, Naruto said jokingly. I don't snore. Annabeth huffed, annoyed that the blonde would even tease her like that. She didn't walk away though, she still made herself comfortable beside the blonde shinobi. Annabeth tried to follow Grover's example for a full minute, but she just couldn't fall asleep. Naruto noticed the girls tossing and turning and talked to her. Something on your mind? Athena's daughter sat up. Yes, I can't get my mind off this quest. Some leader I turned out to be. She berated herself. Hey, don't say that, he said, trying to get off the negativity in the girl's head. You're doing great so far. Really, we get lost in the maze and end up in the other side of America, only to be chased by some dragon lady. Hey, nobody said the quest was going to be easy. Things would be suspicious if it were that way. She brushed her hair out her face. Naruto noticed a smudge of dirt on her chin. Naruto took out a handkerchief and wiped the dirt away. This caused the girl to blush and grab the hanky away from the blonde. I can do it myself, Annabeth protested, trying to keep her voice from cracking from the flustered state. Naruto looked at the girl as she cleaned herself up. She was trying to act tough, but Naruto deep down she was scared. He couldn't help but imagine a younger Annabeth traveling with Talia and Luke all those years ago. Perhaps even now, she still needed someone to lean to in time like this, but Naruto knew not to underestimate her. This girl still had guts. She noticed Naruto staring at her. What are you looking at? She asked, trying to sound annoyed. You. Naruto said nonchalantly. It's hard not to stare at you. See, can you not? She didn't sound as annoyed as she wanted. She sounded flustered. Alright, Naruto held his hands up in a placating gesture. What seems to be bothering you? This quest, Annabeth confided. I just wish this quest was logical. I mean, we're traveling now, but we have no control over where we're going. It doesn't make sense. How can we walk from New York to California in a day? You said it yourself, space isn't the same in the maze, Naruto pointed out. I know, Annabeth looked up hesitantly. You know, I was kidding myself when I thought that I could handle this quest. All that reading and planning I did, it was all for nothing. To be fair, we don't have a way to navigate the maze the way Theseus did in the stories. Besides, we all know you're doing your best. Everyone here will support you. But I feel like I'm letting everyone down. No one thinks that. Look, we always somehow get out of anything that's thrown at us. Remember, Circe's Island. I was told Percy was cute as a guinea pig. Hey, came Percy's indignant voice as he heard his name. He was, Annabeth giggled, ignoring Percy's protest. What about in Waterland when the war god's shield turned out to be booby-trapped? Naruto continued listing off their escapades. Alright, I get it, she smiled. I know you're strong, Annabeth. Heck, you even held up the sky. Thank you, Naruto. I needed that pep talk. I think I can go to sleep now. Anytime. We are all here for you. Good night. Good night. It was a workshop. Measuring instruments littered the work table. A forge burned red hot in the corner. A tall boy stoked the bellows. A weird funnel device attached to the forge's chimney trapped the smoke and heat, channeling it through a pipe next to a large bronze manhole cover. The time of day looked to be in the morning. The sky outside was blue, not that the two prisoners could see from the dungeon they were working on. The only indication to the two workers was a window high up in the wall. Only a shinobi who knows his stuff could reach it, but it was obvious that none of the two were shinobi. The other worker was a frail old man. He was terribly thin, and his hands were raw and red from working. His long white mane covered his eyes as he worked, and his tunic was smudged with grease. What was he working on, you ask? I can only describe it as beautiful. It was a long metal patchwork, similar to that of chain mail. When he held his masterpiece up, he revealed it to be metal wings with thousands of interlocking bronze feathers. He stretched the wings to their full wingspan. It reached 20 feet. The metal feather gleamed in the little sunlight they got, causing it to shimmer about 30 shades of gold. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's made of freaking metal. How the hell is this thing going to fly? My answer to that is, you don't know this inventor. If he made it, there's no way in Hades's undergarments is this thing going to fail. Father, you're a genius, the boy said as he looked up at the old man's handiwork. A smile crept up to the old man's lips. Tell me something I don't know, Icarus. Now hurry up, we need at least an hour to attach them. The now named Icarus shook his head. No, father, you made them. You should get the honor of wearing them first. An hour later, both men sat wearing their leather harnesses. They almost looked like climbing gears, but trust me, they're not going climbing. The metal wings were attached to their back. The old man looked like a majestic golden birdman. The wax should hold on for several hours, the old man said as he attached the same set of wings to his son. But, we must be careful. If we fly to the sun would melt the wax. If we fly too low, the sea will wet the wax. Yes, father, we've been through that a million times now. Icarus waved his father off. These are your inventions. There's no way that they would fail. One cannot be too careful, my son, the old man said, but you can see his eyes shining. He loved this boy more than anything. Things were going smoothly, when, boom, a loud sound thundered through the dungeon as a battering ram slammed into the wooden door. The sound startled the old man, causing him to spill some wax on the young boy's shoulder. His son winced, but he did not cry out. What's happening? He instead panicked. They're not due foe. Boom. The battering ram once again slammed on the doors, stopping the boy from his words. They were a moot point now. The old man worked on the wings furiously, or well, as furiously as an old man could work. He worked through the booming sounds of the battering ram. And, just as the doors splintered, he finished with the right wing. Surprised to see me, Daedalus. A voice came from inside the plume of dust and smoke that the rubble of the door kicked up. I'd like to say I'm sorry for crashing into your party, but I'm not. The owner of the voice walked through the smoke. It was King Minos, with a cruel smile plastered on his face. We're leaving, Minos, Daedalus told him with courage, despite the armed guards beside the king. The cruel king just chuckled. You know, I was curious how far you could take your little project before I crushed your hopes and dreams. I must say, I'm impressed, despite how you look like metal chickens right now. I should just pluck your wings off and make a soup. Hee hee. Chicken soup, one of the guards chuckled, finding his king's joke funny. Shut up, he yelled at the guard. He turned to the inventor. You have made me a laughingstock of the whole Mediterranean. You let my daughter escape. You drove my wife into madness. And, you killed my monster. In a bout of anger, Icarus grabbed the wax gun and shot it at the king. On instinct, the guards stepped forwards to shield their king, only to get sprayed in the face with hot wax. The guards writhed in pain. The two men used the opportunity to pry open the manhole cover. The guards recovered, but Daedalus threw a vial of green liquid at them. The oil around them lit ablaze as the fire spread through the whole workshop. What are you waiting for, you idiots? Get them. Minos all but snarled at his guards who were scared of a little fire. Little did they know, the two prisoners had already escaped and were flying safely over the ocean. Airspace, a good distance away from Crete. Father, we're free. Icarus yelled into the air, doing pirouettes and flips just as good or even better than a modern aircraft could. Icarus, be careful. Daedalus told off his son for the umpteenth time since they left. The boy did not listen. He sped up north and rode the wind into an eagle's flight path, startling the creature. He plummeted to the sea like he was born to fly and did a nosedive at the last second. His sandals skimmed through the waves. Daedalus clumsily caught up with his son. Stop that, he scolded. Don't worry, father, Icarus laughed in the wind. I trust your handiwork. Just as he said that the first metal feather shook loose from his wings. Then another. Pretty soon, he looked like a bird shedding feathers, twirling away from him like a flock of frightened birds. Glide, Daedalus ordered. Extend your wings. Stay as still as possible. He did not listen. He flapped desperately to assert control. The more he did, the more feathers shed from the frame. First, the left wing went, then the right wing, soon after. In the end, he was just a boy in climbing gear, falling down into the deep blue ocean, never to be seen again. The labyrinth. Present day. Percy woke with a start. Not one of them could tell the time of day while they were in the underground maze, well, maybe except for Grover. But one thing is for sure. The constant groaning of the maze now sounded eerily like the screams of the boy who plummeted to his death. Breakfast was plain as hell. It was a far cry from what they were used to at the dining pavilion. Looking at his food now, Naruto couldn't help but miss the unlimited ramen he was served at the table. With the plain food, the meal came and went in the blink of an eye. Pretty soon, they were continuing on their way. As they continued to navigate the maze, they were completely confused, especially Annabeth. When the stone walls changed to dirt with cedar beams, the quest leader was now getting agitated. This isn't happening, she complained. The architecture should be getting older. Why did it turn to wood? Naruto just placed a hand on her shoulder to calm down. She appreciated the gesture and forged on with the rest of the team. The mine opened into a cave with stalactites hanging low on the ceiling. In the center of the cave, there was a rectangular pit like a grave. Gazing down onto the pit, there was a glint of foil wrapper wrapping a half-chewed cheeseburger floating in brown carbonated muck. Naruto scrunched his eyebrows. He remembered Bianca telling him about her dreams. This is. You know about this. Percy looked at him. Not me. The blonde shook his head. Bianca did. This is most probably Nico's doing. Grover pinched his nose, looking away from the sight. No wonder it reeks of the underworld stench in here. Ghosts were here, Tyson whimpered. I don't like ghosts. Is he summoning the dead? Annabeth asked. Why would he be summoning the dead? Naruto shook his head. Bianca didn't know either. This is probably because of her near-death experience. Whatever's happening here, someone must be leading him on. Then we have to find him. Percy chimed. He tried running off in a random direction, but Naruto stopped him. I know we have to find him, but there's no sense in running off and end up getting lost here, Naruto advised. We don't want to end up like that milkman. Percy shuddered. You're right, but how do we find him? Naruto turned to Grover. Can you tell where he went? The satyr concentrated for a bit. His nose twitched, trying to discern where the scent led to. A few seconds later, he pointed to a tunnel that had a light presumably at the end. The group followed the tunnel, and when they made it to the source of the light, it turned out to be coming from a grate. Beyond said grate, the quest goers could see trees and a blue sky. Where are we? Percy asked a question. No one answered since none of them knew the answer to it. Percy waited for an answer, but a shadow fell across the grate. Moo! Came a sound from whatever creature covered the daylight shining through the grate. It turned out, the creature was a cow, but it was no ordinary cow. They were a weird color, bright red, like a cherry. The red cow continued to moo, but a hoof fell through the bars of the grate causing it to step back. It was then that the satyr was hit with a realization. That's not a grate. It's a cattle guard. A what? Percy asked. A cattle guard, Grover repeated. They place them at the gates of ranches so the cows won't get out. How'd you know that? Percy asked again. Percy, I'm a satyr. Grover rolled his eyes, then looked away with a tinge of pink on his cheeks. I may or may not have fallen victim to one of these things. I guess there's one way to keep you from stalking my sisters when they come to camp, Naruto remarked with a chuckle. Hey, I don't stalk on the hunters. The satyr protested. Gee, could have fooled me, Naruto returned with dry sarcasm. As much as I like to listen to you two argue, we should get back on track, Annabeth spoke up to prevent his two teammates from deviating farther from their agenda. Hera said we'll pass by a ranch. She was right. She continued. She seemed to be having a hard time admitting that last part. That's good and all, but how do we get up there? Percy asked. To answer his question, Tyson reached up to the cattle guard, giving it a blow that caused it to pop off and fly out of sight. There was a loud clang followed by a startled moo. Sorry, cow, Tyson called out with a blush. Once everyone was out of the tunnel, they took a look at their surroundings. Rolling hills stretched as far as the eye could see. It was dotted with oak trees, cacti, and boulders. There was a barbed wire fence running from both sides. Cherry-colored cows roamed around grazing on clumps of grass. I knew it, Naruto said as he recognized the cows. They're Uncle Apollo's cows. Apollo's what? Percy asked. Apollo's sacred cows. Holy cows. Tyson chimed in. Pretty much, Grover shrugged. Who knew he'd be hiding 'em all the way out here, Naruto said looking around. Wherever here is. Wait, Grover stopped anyone else from speaking. Did you hear that? Everyone heard it. There was a distant baying of dogs. The sounds got louder. The underbrush over to their side rustled, where two dogs broke through. There you are. Naruto's brain translated the growls. The dog's whole body came through. It was then that they realized that the two dogs were just one dog. It was a greyhound, long and snaky and sleek brown, but its neck diverged into two heads. It came out in a stance ready to attack. ARF. Grover greeted in the friendliest manner he could, as friendly as his scared feeling could muster. The two-headed dog bared its teeth and continued growling. Any last words? Whoa there, Orthus, a voice came from the woods. The man came lumbering into the area. If Naruto were to give a description of the man, it would be Father Time. Well, that would be taking liberties. The Father Time description would stick if he were redneck and got totally jacked. He wore jeans, a don't mess with Texas shirt under a denim jacket whose sleeves were ripped to reveal his muscles. On his right biceps was a cross-shaped tattoo. Finally, he was carrying a giant club, as big as a nuclear warhead, with 6-inch spikes bristling at the end. The two-headed dog listened to who Naruto guessed was his master, but not before getting out one last growl to prove his point. This isn't over. Well, what do we have here? The ripped man said in an accent that matched his appearance. Cattle rustlers. No, Annabeth said, playing peacemaker. We're travelers. We're on a quest, you see. Half-bloods, eh? She nodded. She placed her hand on her chest and introduced her team. I'm Annabeth, daughter of Athena. This is Naruto, son of Artemis, he gestured to the shinobi. This is Percy, son of Poseidon, Grover, the satyr, and Tyson, the Cyclops. Yes, I see that, the buff man answered. But how did you know? Percy asked. Well, that's because I am one, Sonny, the man said. I'm Eurytion, son of Ares. You came through the labyrinth like the other one, I reckon. By the other one, do you mean Nico D'Angelo? Naruto asked. You know the other one. The now named Eurytion knitted his eyebrows. Knew it. Grover cheered at being able to pinpoint the exact location. We need to see him right away, Percy demanded. Eurytion shook his head. I'm afraid I can't do that, son. We get a lot of visitors in this here ranch, but not many ever leave. I suggest you leave now before it's too late. He was acting weird, though. He kept glancing behind him like he was expecting someone to be listening in on their conversation. We're not leaving until we see Nico, Percy remained insistent. Eurytion grunted. Then you leave me no choice. Come with me. You have to see the boss. Later, the group walked through the woods, the same way the son of Ares came. They weren't treated like hostages or anything. The muscled man just walked ahead of them, his weapon slung across his shoulder at the ready. Naruto figured that Orthus was a guard dog, but it seemed like he was taking his job way too seriously. He kept growling a lot, and kept jumping in the bushes to chase away animals. What was weird though, he kept sniffing Grover a lot. They walked along the path, that seemed to go on forever. What made things worse was that the temperature felt like it was pushing 40, which was odd since they just came from California. It was so hot that you could see the heat shimmering off the ground. They even saw the fences coated with asbestos to prevent them from burning up in the weather. The crew passed by dozens of different animals. Aside from the flies buzzing around them, there were red cows, fire-breathing horses, and a bunch of others that seemed to get weirder as they passed. Say, what are these animals for? Percy asked out of curiosity. We raise animals for a lot of clients, from Apollo, to Diomedes, and, his voice trailed off. Others. Like who? No more questions. He snapped, and the rest of the way was quiet. Percy didn't bother to press further. He was drenched in sweat by now, and he would give anything to be out of the sun. Eventually, they made it out to the woods, and here they were. In a big ranch house made of white stone and wood, perched up on a hill. Don't break any rules, Eurytion said sternly and started listing them off. No fighting, no drawing weapons. And most of all, don't make any comments about the boss's appearance. Why? Percy asked. He just had to. You'll see, was his cryptic answer. Welcome to Triple G Ranch. As if on cue, the so-called boss of the ranch marched up to the steps. The man looked normal if you just looked at the head. His face was weathered and brown, probably from years of working under the sun. He had slick black hair and a black pencil mustache like those you see worn by villains in the movies. Personally, that would be the biggest red flag yet, but we decided to trust him, for now. There was also a smile on his face. It wasn't friendly at all, Percy could tell that much. It was an amused smile more than anything. The part that made Percy hold his tongue, though, was his body. He looked like three people in one. His neck is connected to the body like normal, but he had two extra chests, one on each side, connected to the shoulders with a few inches in between. His left arm grew out of his left chest, and the same on the right, so he had two arms, but four armpits, the chests all connected into one enormous torso, with two regular but very beefy legs. He was wearing the most oversized pair of Levi's that any of them had ever seen. They could probably imagine how many X's that came with the L. His chests each wore a different color of Western shirt, green, yellow, and red, like a spotlight. Say hello to Mr. Geryon, the cowherd introduced his boss. A nice ranch you have here, Percy said as he looked up from the pudgy man's chest. He had to hold his tongue so hard there. Hello sir, Annabeth spoke for her crew. We're. Geryon didn't wait for her to answer. Yes, I have been informed of you. Annabeth Chase and her monster friends. Who told you? Naruto narrowed his eyes. And how do you know our names? Excuse me. Grover protested at the same time. That man is wearing 3 shirts, Tyson spoke up as if just realizing that. Geryon frowned. He knew that was a jab at his chest. Before anyone could speak up, someone else came out of the glass doors that Geryon came from. You. The newcomer screamed as he saw who the boss of the ranch was talking to. The sound of a blade scraping with its scabbard followed. Although, the blade's sound abruptly stopped. Eurytion was instantly in front of him with a hand on the sword arm. Tut, Mr. D'Angelo, need I remind you the rules of my ranch? The boss told him off. Nico. Percy spoke up, recognizing the family name. Shut up. Nico yelled at Percy before turning to the boss again. But Geryon, they let my sister die. But, he tried to protest, but Eurytion's imposing presence in front of him told him otherwise. Fine, the son of Hades finally conceded. Nico, this time it was Naruto. Bianca told me what you have been up to. Do not speak her name. Nico raised his voice. You let her die. You don't deserve to speak her name. But she's alive, Naruto simply said. Whoever told you otherwise is lying. Relief could be seen on his face, but at the same time, he was cautious. It just sounded too good to be true. No, why are you lying to me? Nico slowly said. Am I? Was all that Naruto replied. How many times have you tried to get into contact with her spirit? No, but, he was getting swayed now. She can tell what you are doing, even when she's at camp, Naruto explained. If you would just see reason. Oh okay, Nico finally said. But if I find out you're lying, let's just say you wouldn't like what would happen. Just trust me. Fine. I would never have imagined that the two of you would have some history with each other, Geryon said, amused at the interaction. Out of all my visitors in this here ranch, you know how to spice up a rancher's day. Thanks I guess, Naruto said, not really sure how to respond to that. But you still didn't answer our question, Annabeth reminded the boss. How did you know about us? It's my business to know about who visits my ranch, darling. Everybody pops into the ranch from time to time. Everyone needs something from old Geryon. For the first time since they left on the quest to free Artemis, the crew from Camp Half-Blood was able to take a good look at Nico. He was considerably thinner and paler than before, like he hasn't eaten for a good amount of time or hasn't been exposed to sunlight for a while. Even his wardrobe had changed. He now wore black clothes, and on his side was a sword as black as midnight. Now that everything is settled, Geryon clapped his hands together. Shall we take a tour around the ranch? Naruto remembered this vehicle. He saw it when Annabeth took him to a zoo in Virginia. It was like one of those kiddie trains that took you around the zoo. This was something like that. It was painted black and white, in a cowhide pattern. To complete the look, The frontmost car had a pair of long horns strapped to the front, and its horn sounded like a cowbell. Everyone sat around the middle, except for Eurytion, who took a nap at the backmost car. As you can see, we run a big operation here, Geryon said, gesturing around his ranch as he drove. We have horses, cattle, and exotic animals too. He drove over a hill, and Annabeth almost jumped out of her seat. Are those hippolectrines? She pointed out. I thought they were extinct. Where Annabeth pointed, there were the strangest animals Naruto had ever seen in his life. Each animal had the front half of a horse and the back half of a rooster. The rear feet were huge yellow claws. They had feathery tails and red wings. As the two of them were getting into a fight over a pile of bird seed, they reared their wings at each other until the smaller one ran away, with a hop in each step of the rear legs. Rooster ponies, Tyson said in amazement. Do they lay eggs? That they do, young Cyclops. He answered enthusiastically. They lay eggs once a year. Their eggs are always in demand. That sounded wrong to Naruto. As the son of the goddess of wild animals, he had to say something. Isn't that illegal? Nonsense, boy. The ranch owner waved him off. Besides, you haven't tasted their omelets. That's horrible. They're endangered. Grover protested. Bah, gold is gold. Geryon waved him off as well and returned to his tour. And over on this side, we have our fire-breathing horses. You may have seen them on your way in. They're bred for war, naturally. What war? Percy asked. Any war. Geryon answered, with a sly grin on his face. We've been breeding them since the First Titan War. Anyway, he continued. Over yonder are our prized red cows. We saw them earlier, Naruto said. My uncle's cows. Geryon nodded. You see, your uncle is a busy god, so he subcontracts us to look after them. These, we breed vigorously. Why? He asked. Their meat is very much in demand. Grover and Naruto looked scandalized. You can't do that, the satyr yelled. That's against ancient laws. Uncle wouldn't allow that, Naruto added. Bah, they're just animals. He shrugged. And if Apollo disapproved of it, he would say something. Something tells me he doesn't know, Percy muttered. Wait, Annabeth said, spotting another thing in the distance. Everyone followed her gaze, and those who were in the know widened their eyes. Those are. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.